Assalamu alaikum, hello, bonjour, Canadian and international viewers. Welcome to our fourth episode of the KacyC Show, your lead to excel. This is your host, KacyC here, with my belief in 3Ds, determination, diligence, and dedication.
And I am Rita. I like to keep my heels, head, and standards high. And today is the first blank page of a 365-page book, so write a good one. And today our topic is human affairs and pushing the right button in a disruptive world. Right, Kacy?
Yes, Rita, thank you very much. And today, the lead to excel in our show is a very decent, elite, and amazing personality. He is an insightful thinker, a motivator, an inspiration from one of the Canadians' newest thought leaders, a former vice president of a $2 billion public company, a humanitarian and a philanthropist. Welcome, Michael Lublin, to the KacyC Show.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Michael Lublin, a very renowned name. So tell me about yourself.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with two of my most favorite people in the Pakistani and the Muslim community. Nice. I have many, many friends, but you two guys tower above everybody else, and I love you dearly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, thank you.
Michael Lublin, well, currently I'm the managing director of David Visual Communications Limited. It's an interior design and branding firm. Our accounts range anywhere from a small independent business entrepreneur who's looking for branding services for a project that might be about $500,000, right up to a $500 billion company, an equity firm out of New York City, that's approached us to ask us to develop a brand for a restaurant launch in Miami, and everything in between. Together with my partner, Christopher Paul David, we do restaurants, hospitality, as well as high-end residential projects all over North America. And outside of that, I'm known as a little bit of a philanthropist and humanitarian. Those are big words. I don't know really how well I'm doing. I like just to try to do acts of goodness and kindness here in Canada and abroad. And as you said, Kacy, prior to David Visual, I was former vice president of a $2 billion public company called MTY Group with 6,000 restaurants in 40 countries under some 50 brand banner names.
Wow.
And thank you. And prior to that, I was chief operating officer of Yogurtys and Jugendfrühs worldwide, which was also at one time a public company under the banner of Cool Brands International Inc. And I spent many years traveling the world doing franchise agreements, license agreements for many of the different brands that Cool Brands had. Some of them were great American iconic brands, such as probably the greatest would have been Oreo Cookie, Oreo, and Tropicana.
Oh,
so those were the brands that we had under our belt at Jugendfrühs. It's been a great career.
That really sounds amazing. So for my viewers, I just need to simplify a bit of things what here Michael mentioned to us is, first of all, he is a philanthropist. As far as what I know, the meaning of philanthropist, and to again, like I said, simplify it, is help to the people, to the needy people. If needy, I can be needy. You can be needy. All of us are needy in some sort of way. So what is really philanthropy, Michael?
Well, that's a great question, and there's probably many different answers to that question. To me, philanthropy is acts of goodness and kindness, selfless acts. It often the pure form of philanthropy is an act that requires self-sacrifice. Right now, I'm doing well in business, and I'm giving a fair share of philanthropy, of financial assistance, not just here in Canada but around the world. I have for a Jewish person. In fact, I have 10 wonderful Rohingya Muslim families in Bangladesh refugee camps that I'm supporting. And I have over 1,000 children in the Philippines that I provide 85% of the budget for the necessities of life, which is clothing, shoes, food, school books, and even Christmas gifts. There's other forms, though, of giving philanthropy. At a time when I wasn't doing so well financially, I found it very important to still tithe. Like the Bible says to tithe, give 10%. And the good Lord, in fact, promises everybody, you give 10%, I will pay you back tenfold in this world. So when there were times when I wasn't really even able to give that 10%, I still gave the 10% anyway. And I think those blessings have kind of come back tenfold, as was promised. And I'm always preaching that to everybody around me. I feel that if people that want assistance, they want better financial benefit, better economic benefit, better lives, individuals, businesses, as well as countries, entire countries, I say, well, then get out there and help somebody else. Help a third person. And if you help a third person, the blessings will come back to you. I think that's philanthropy in my books.
That's, there we go. So what we understood here is that it's giving. And when you are giving, more than the receiver, the reward is in the giving. And like you said, that the blessings come back on you. And this is what we are seeing through Michael Lublin, who's been helping the needy around the world. And he's done so many projects, which in the form of charity. And we also seeing him going around in different events and contributing in terms of community service. And wherever there is any need in the society, we always see Michael Lublin being there. Apart from this, from the business perspective, every glass window downtown Toronto is graced with your business. You've got these windows out there. And of course, on the greatest eateries. When we say eateries, everybody, it's the restaurants what Lublin owns. And branding. So one thing very important here, if you want to brand your business, Michael is the expert.
He's the man.
Yes. So branding, what does branding personally mean, Michael?
Well, I mean, there's two forms of business out in the business world today, and there's the independent and there's the brand.
Okay.
And brands are really important. A brand like McDonald's or like Tim Hortons or Starbucks. The consumer out there in today's world understands and knows exactly what they're getting when they go to a brand. Okay. So brands, in fact, drive revenues. They drive the customers through the door. And there's different elements of the brand. We call them the core assets of a brand, the logo, the name of the brand, even the culture of the people that work inside the brand. If you've noticed, if you go to a Starbucks anywhere in the world, the staff seem to be speaking the same cool language, the same cool lingo, and you feel very comfortable, and you know exactly what you're going to get. One of those lattes, $7.50 lattes that has 4 or 5 adjectives in front of it. My father would be turning over in his grave. A cup of coffee in a public coffee shop used to be 35 cents. Today it's $7.50. That's the power of brand. And brands drive revenues, and they generate tremendous profits for companies. So what we do at David Visual is when we create brands, we have a sensitivity to the understanding of what the objectives of the brand or the owners of the brand want. So it's not just looking at decorative elements of a brand like paints and lighting, but it's actually the core assets that actually speak to what the brand is all about, present and portray a culture of the brand, and then hence, by consequence, drive the revenues. And I think with many of our clients, we've done a pretty good job. The results are out there. They speak for themselves. And I think we know, when for an interior design and branding firm, we called ourselves David Visual. David is my wonderful partner, Christopher David, Filipino-Canadian of 8 years, who actually won Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in Canada last year. And we called it David Visual because everything is about the visual. Everything's about optics. Yeah, what we do is all about the optics. And it's the way people, particularly the consumer, perceives and views choose an independent or a brand. And it's probably one of the highest degrees or elements that we employ in our brand execution. And it's what delivers in the end.
Yeah.
Well, how's that?
Wow. So like some of the names which you already mentioned is the yogurt froze, right? Yogurt froze, and another one is the Oreo. So like we heard that if you need branding get done and to learn how to make your business successful through your branding, that's what exactly David does.
Yeah.
So Rita, I think you have a question.
Yes,
for
so
David.
talking about a very famous book, The Elephants Weep. I think books have really good titles and really give us a food of thought that elephants do weep too, being animals. So please.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because we talked about this in the past in many of our meetings. And there's a famous book by the Harvard professor called Why Elephants Weep. And the tagline is the emotional lives of elephants, the emotional lives of animals. And we had this discussion because, we've talked often, the three of us, about what I call a world disrupted, and today we're very much in a world disrupted. Nothing's normal anymore. We have political strife and socio-economic strife going on everywhere. There's all kinds of civil unrest around the world. And we have a great lesson to learn from the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom, specifically this book, Why Elephants Weep, actually portrays animals with an emotional life. That in fact, coming from the Bible, we all know that animals are living beings and they have souls.
Yes.
And they actually feel and they have these emotional lives. And if we look at the animal kingdom and we see where the difference between the animal kingdom and the humankind is that God bestowed upon Adam in the Garden of Eden one thing higher than what he gave the animals, the animal kingdom, and that was intellect. In Hebrew and Jewish we call it seichel. And he gave man seichel, and intellect was given in order for us to choose right from wrong. And that's the destiny of man and mankind in the world, to choose right from wrong, and again to be able to do acts of goodness and kindness and perfect the world. And each individual being a guiding light unto himself, his family, his community, and all nations. So we could learn very much from the animal kingdom by studying animals and looking at the emotional lives, that these are living beings. So in fact, in the Jewish Bible, in the Code of Jewish Law, it says before you sit down to eat, before your family sits down to eat, if you have a pet, you have to feed the pet first. It's an actual law in Judaism. You must feed the pet first. That the pet shouldn't suffer for 1 second standing there watching the family eat while the pet itself is hungry.
Because they're equal.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and we can, like you said, pet. So we do know that you love cats, and you're living with lots of cats, right?
Yeah.
So what is that love only for the cats but not dogs?
Well, as growing up in Kitchener, Ontario, as you know, I'm a 5th-generation Canadian from Kitchener, Ontario, and we always had a lot of pets around us. Everything from snakes to turtles and cats and dogs. Dogs were our favorite, but living in an urban dwelling now in downtown Toronto, it's a little hard to, with my schedule where I work 7 days a week, it's hard to keep a dog. So I certainly do have four wonderful cats, each one with a different distinct personality, and I get a big bang out of them. I get a big kick out of them, and then I go to work later in the day, and I kind of...
It's a drive.
I get a little bit of a drive. They're very demanding. Cats are very demanding.
Really, but they're fluffy and they're cute. Michael, you've been called as a thought leader. Thinking is the good aspect, but who is a thought leader? What do you mean by thought leader?
Well, I didn't call myself a thought leader. It was I think it was a couple of public relations firms, and it was mentioned in some media over the last year or two when my partner and myself developed the Toasto Quickfire Pizza Pasta brand for a $2 billion company, MTY. Toasto was the first fast premium brand in North America. In the rest, just to give you a little history in the or education, in the restaurant industry, we all know about fast food. I mean, we're junk food addicts.
Yes.
So we eat fast food. We know of the McDonald's and Burger Kings of the world. That's fast food. And we also know about fine dining, where we go out a couple times a year, if we're lucky, to a place that has a white tablecloth, and we spend an enormous amount of money. And either we propose or we celebrate a birthday. That's fine dining. Then you have the casual segment, which is like Swiss chalet, kind of in the middle of the two. There was a new concept called fast casual, which was came into the market in North America about 7 years ago, and those were like the Chipotles of the world. When we, my partner and myself, started to develop the Toasto brand, we thought, you know what, we need to become a category killer in business. You can't compete today. It's a near impossibility. The marketplace is too small now. Competition is so strife, so hard. So we thought, let's create something brand new where we'll become a category killer and just stomp on the competition that is out there. So we created a fast premium, a new category in food services where you get a premium quality product, in other words, a fine dining product, but at a fast food price and in a very urban chic environment. I think it was on the basis of that, in several interviews with media last year, mainstream media, I was asked, what's the next big trend coming in food services in the restaurant industry? And I kind of used the word disruptive again. I said disruption, chaos. People are bored. They get very bored very quickly, and we need to be entertained, especially with so much pressure on us today in society. So I said, like, people love going out and they want to get into a place that has chaos, and the very chaos of the place, its chaotic nature will provide an instant entertainment gratification. So instead of just great food, you have, you know, a package that's like, whoa, what happened here? What hit me? You know, and it seems that everybody leaves an environment like that, and they tell all their friends about it. They literally say, hey, you gotta see this new place I was just at. It's crazy, but it's incredible. And I think it was on that basis where they kind of call me a thought leader, but in a specific category of our of economics and business in Canada.
Michael, so everybody, we heard words like chaos, disruption, and entertainment. This brings us to the end of this segment. We are going to come back and ask how really that chaos can be turned into the entertainment prospect. So we'll go on a break, everybody, and till then, see you again. Thank you.
I'm at KacyC's English Excel at Canada in Brampton. I'm here to study the IELTS General Training course. It's a 5-hour intensive writing course which includes all the writing task 1 strategies and writing task 2 strategies too.
Hello everybody, welcome back to our second segment. We had chaos, we had disruption, we had entertainment. So Michael Lublin, being the thought leader, he's into human affairs. Michael, human affairs, what's that?
Oh dear, a general question like that, wow, that's hard to answer. I wish you'd ask me something a little more specific. Human affairs, social justice, benevolence.
Wow.
I don't even know where to begin on human affairs like that, but let me say this, KacyC, because
I'll be specific if you want here, because
sure,
when you mention human affairs, that brings to your own term, which says world disrupted. So how would you relate human affairs to world disrupted?
Well, brilliant, yes, absolutely. Let me say it like this. People always ask, how do you feel being Jewish? How do you feel being Jewish, being somewhat a minority in a world that's been full of persecution, pogroms, inquisitions, the Holocaust throughout 3,500 years of history? And I think if you look at Jewish history, the Jews have survived 3,500 years of persecution, pogroms, the Holocaust, etc., while many other powerful nations and entire civilizations have disappeared from the face of the earth without even leaving a single remnant. So why is it, or how is it, that the Jews have persevered and they've been around and they've been here? And the only thing I could think of is bring it back to human affairs and to say, well, what's the purpose of the Jew or the Jewish people in the world? And we know from our studies, from my studies in Talmudic Academy in Miami Beach, Florida, when I was a teenager, that the Jewish people were put into the world to be a guiding light into the nations. And you've heard me say constantly when I've spoken to the Pakistani community, to the other members of the Muslim community, sometimes crowds of 400 or 500 people, one of my most often mentioned quotes is, "I am my brother's keeper." I am my brother's keeper. And I've often said that, and I've elaborated. What does it mean I'm my brother's keeper? It means I'm responsible. It means that the blood of my brother cries out to me from beneath the ground. So when there's conflict in the world, it's important for every single individual, communities, countries, nations, all nations in the world to get involved to stop the conflict. It's so much easier to bring love into the world, to have relationships based on love, a foundation of building bridges as opposed to putting up walls, or as opposed to hatred. Hatred takes so much energy, and it's such a waste. I mean, hatred destroys lives, where love, as you know, if you look at the psychology and the sociology of humankind, you know, a husband and a wife, they have a sexual relation, and all of a sudden the creation of another human being comes out of it. Nothing's more powerful than that. Nothing's more important or intricate than that. So love can certainly break down a lot of barriers, a lot of walls, and I think if human affairs is based on love, faith, and hope, faith in God, hope in mankind, then we can certainly dismantle the walls of separation and diversity, and I would say expand this wonderful, wonderful experiment in Canada that we have, which we call multiculturalism. And Canada will lead the way in a world that's disruptive right now, a world where we're losing the harmony, we're losing peace. You have the dismantling of Brexit in Europe, you have the rise of the alt-right in the United States, couple that with the extreme left, Antifa, and there's nobody left in the middle. Canada's in the middle. Canada is such a great experiment. Canada is what human affairs is all about.
And also, speaking about history, 6 million Jews sacrificed their lives for who? And so it's very important to really remember like where we all came from and what really happened with those innocent lives. What Germany did is a really big topic to talk about. But speaking about today's world, like, so how do we really navigate with like the negativity and the positivity and the pros and cons? I think we all really have like testing like the water levels to really know that should we like, you know, like take that risk? Like, I mean, talking about the business and like professional world. So like, what do we say about that? So like, how do we really like take those steps towards pushing the right like the choices?
For me, in my business life, my personal life, my social life, everything goes back to the Bible. What is the Bible? The Bible is the book of common sense. It's that simple. And if you follow the book of common sense, you don't leave yourself exposed to different liabilities. You reduce the chances, or just greatly decrease the chances of losses, and you increase the chances of wins in life. I would tend to think that if you use, and I don't want to sound like a religionist because I'm not, but if you use the Bible, if you use common sense as a blueprint through life, through everything you do in business, personal, relationships, etc., that I think your chances of success are so much greater. I'd like to think that you mentioned, 6 million Jews perished in the Holocaust. Often over the last 30, 40 years, I've heard people ridicule and argue and say, what's wrong with you Jewish people? Why do you keep shoving the Holocaust down our throats? What do you keep bringing up the Holocaust for? And the whole thing is that you have to remember. You have to remember so you don't repeat the past. And instead of embracing the memorial memorials, the museum, the Holocaust Museum in Washington, the Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg that a great Jewish Canadian, Izzy Asper, who founded Global Television, started and built. If we don't embrace those things, we are literally condemned to repeat it.
Yes.
And look at the world today. We had a genocide in Rwanda going on not too long ago. We have another genocide going on in Burma right now. And again, when is it going to stop? It's going to stop when we get involved, individuals get involved, communities get involved, and countries get involved. And when they stand up and they say enough is enough, this is going to stop, and it's going to stop right now. I would argue, and I would say, that the Bible does say, he who saves the life of one person, it's as if he saves the entire world.
Yep.
So I can't save, I myself, I'm personally involved on a daily basis with the genocide of the Rohingya Muslim minority in Burma. I have 10 families that I support there. Each family, they're Muslim families, thank God they have like 10 kids, it's 100 people. But if I could only save one soul, one life, for me, it would be enough. It would be as if I saved the entire world. And I urge everybody to walk in those very, very shoes.
And that's what you've been doing. Ladies and gentlemen, some of you might know, but today what I'm going to tell you is that we saw in the inauguration ceremony of Donald Trump, we saw Michael Lublin sitting on the 20th row. Whoa, what on earth took you there? And are you a supporter of Trump then? Are you one?
Well, I think you might want to ask me if I'm a supporter of Andrew Scheer also.
Okay.
But it's yes, indeed. I was invited. I received a wonderful gold leaf invitation from the Congress of the United States, the Committee on Inaugurations of the President. And it came through me, through some very dear friends, Congressman David Cicilline of Rhode Island, who incidentally of Providence, Rhode Island, is holds the seat of the 1st Congressional District in the entire United States. The seat was priorly held to my dear friend, my good friend Patrick Kennedy, Senator Ted Kennedy's son. And it also came through this Deputy Speaker of the House of the Rhode Island State Assembly. Unapologetically, I'll say I was a supporter of Donald Trump. I did get very disenchanted over the last year. I saw a lot of crazy things going on, a lot of crazy things happening. However, and I wrote on my Facebook today, as a Jewish person, I do support Donald Trump's decision, which was on behalf of the U.S. Congressional Act, on behalf of the American people, the American democracy, to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. It angered many, many people in the Muslim, well actually it angered many people in the Muslim world. I think the tip of the iceberg were saying some horrible derogatory people, kill Zionists, kill Jews. That's just the tip of the iceberg. My Muslim friends said, listen, Mike, you're right. We got to get the Palestinians and the Israelis sitting down at the peace table, and we got to negotiate a peace. And it's funny because this almost happened during the President Clinton's era, when Ehud Barak and Yasser Arafat were in Camp David, and Arafat was given 98% of everything. He wasn't given Jerusalem yet, or at the time, so he walked away. He said it's all or nothing. Had he stayed there, had he taken 98%, the Palestinians would be living in their own homeland today, in cooperation with the wonderful brothers across the border in Israel, and probably today there would be a sharing of Jerusalem, which is what the Israelis want and what every Jewish person in the world wants to see. So, I mean, I was for Trump's move, and I also felt irrelevant of where the embassy is, the parties have to sit down and negotiate. I was also very moved when Donald Trump, 2 weeks ago on Hanukkah, which is the Festival of Jewish Miracles, the Festival of Miracles, when he commuted the sentence of my childhood friend, Shalom Rabashkin, who was sitting in jail for 8 years, serving 8 years of a 27-year sentence, where the sentencing absolutely did not meet the crime to which he was convicted of. And Barack Obama was approached by the entire Jewish world to commute the sentence, and he never did, and Donald Trump did. Shalom Rabashkin, who was my childhood friend, we went to camp together in Detroit. he was released, and upon his return in New York City, hundreds of thousands of people were out there celebrating with him. It meant so much to the Jewish world. And what did it mean to the Jewish world? Because it's a Muslim, it's a lesson for the Muslim world, and it's a lesson for Christianity and for all religions. Shalom Mordechai Rabashkin, while he sat in jail, he never once lost his faith that he would be released. He kept his faith in God that he would be released one day, and one day soon. And this is a father of 10 children with one special child, special needs child as well. And when Trump made that commutation, it was the humanitarian thing to do. Okay, so I'm kind of a little bit back in the ranks of the Republicans and Donald Trump, not fully. And of course, it was the Democrats that did invite me to Washington, and who I went out to dinner with several senators and congressmen while I was there with my partner Chris. But let's see what happens in the next this year, the second year of Donald Trump's mandate.
Yeah, like our topic for today is human affairs and pushing on the right buttons. So Donald Trump, okay, this incident I agree, but hasn't he been pushing on the wrong buttons instead?
KacyC, I love it and I love you. Rita, the same thing. Donald Trump has pushed every wrong button that he could possibly push.
Yeah.
But this is why I call this a world disruptive today. You have to look at what's happened. You have the rise of the right, the far right, the alt-right, which is disgusting, and we have to stop in its tracks. You also have the rise of the far left, Antifa, and they're no better. Donald Trump was right. We have to stop them in their tracks. People that call for the destruction of entire countries, of entire people, are no good. I'd like to see if somehow we get back to the center of everything in politics, in social justice, in economics, in finance. Canada, again, is a great leader. We have the greatest socio-economic benefits program than any country on the face of the earth. Everybody gets educated. Everybody has health care. We have a wonderful pension plan. I'd love to see things get back to that. Where does it leave us with Donald Trump pushing all the wrong buttons? He's certainly disrupting the world. I just have a feeling that there might be some sort of sanity to the insanity of this president.
Whoa.
That's somewhere along the lines, KacyC. Somewhere along
to the insanity of this president.
Somewhere along the lines, hopefully it's all going to unravel, and we're going to find ourselves right in a happy space called the middle, where there's no more bipartisanship, where a lot of things are going to get done in the United States Congress and Senate on behalf of the American people, and then expand from there to the rest of the world to bring peace and harmony to nations, around the world, and that the threat of nuclear Armageddon by North Korea, the threat of the destruction of the state of Israel by Iran. This is interesting. The Saudis get it. The monarchy of Saudi Arabia and the Saudi people, they get that one really, really. It's close to home. But where we can live in a world of peace and harmony.
Wow, there you go. Michael, basically everybody does know, and Michael is very famous and loved by specifically Pakistani community and also by Filipino community here in Canada and also in Philippines.
Well, KacyC,
Michael,
before you mention that,
yes,
I just
please.
want to say, because you're talking about politics here and human affairs and humanitarian contributions, I think there is an issue. There is a big issue. And no one gives the solution. I mean, in my classes, I always debate that people talk about ethics and values and the good life and the good and evil, taking all these philosophical courses. And I always ask them one question, like, you have these lineup of issues and issues and issues. What is the solution?
And that was my question.
What is the end solution of all these issues?
Yeah.
And people say, well, you have to find the issue. So you're the person who's stating that there's a problem, so give me a solution to it.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that aspect of a human life, where we should love, we should care, we should do the charity, we should do the humanitarian contributions, but we don't. We should, but we don't. So what is that one solution in your own world, what do you say, would be possible of all these major issues out there?
Okay, first of all, I have to compliment your mom. You certainly are a chip off the old block, because you stole her question.
Yeah. I should put it in a different way.
That's great. That's great.
You know what? We are ending to the end of the segment.
Okay.
So if you could just end with whatever, just a simple note there, then we can come back and discuss that later. So human affairs. So like what Rita asked was, there are issues and that's the human affairs, and you being such a kind, I know him as a very kind, very generous person, and there is something in you that you really need and want to help people out there. Everybody, let's go on a break and we're going to come back and take this answer from Michael Lublin. See you all. Thank you.
I'm at KacyC English Excel at Canada in Brampton. I'm here to study the IELTS General Training course. It's a 5-hour intensive writing course which includes all the writing task 1 strategies and writing task 2 strategies too.
Welcome back to the last segment of the KacyC show here with Mr. Michael Lublin, and I asked him a question about the solution to all these issues, and the show is really about bringing change, and Michael here is a living example and really trying to bring that change in a very larger a perspective. So Michael, what is the solution of all these problems?
Okay. Great. Well, first of all, I have to tell you, Mom, Kacy, you mentioned that I'm quite a well-known celebrity in the Pakistani community, and I'm very close and endeared, and likewise, I have so many great friends in the Pakistani community.
And you're loved. We love you.
Thank you so much. But you have to understand, it's all about the food. It's truly about the fact that Pakistani cuisine is by far one of my most favorite, if not my favorite, in the entire world.
Wow.
So whenever there's a function, and if the food is there, and even more so if it's free, you know I'm there. Michael Lublin's there. But anyway, to tell you, to answer the question, Rita, it's really simple. First of all, in a world a world disrupted today, the individual is very selfish, very greedy, very selfish, not giving. I think to remedy a lot of the issues that are out there, first of all, you have to perfect yourself. An individual must perfect themselves first, and then they could go out and perfect society. So most of society wakes up every morning and they say, what do I need from the world? Michael Lublin wakes up every morning and in society and he says, what does the world need from me? What can I do today to make somebody's life or some entity a little bit better than it was the day before? And that's how I start my day and set upon going about my daily functions, whether they're in business or relationships or politics. And I think if people kind of adapt that, I think they will be better served. And we come full circle to the beginning of our discussion here today, which is, if you want to do better in business, want to do better in your relationships, get the heck out there and help somebody else. And you'll see that automatically you will find that your own situation becomes much more perfected and smoother. That's the short answer.
So the solution, or one thing to note here, is it all starts from you and finishes from you.
Wow.
Right, Michael?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
And also 2018 is going to be a year of change, a year of happiness, a year of giving. So that's our ultimate goal, to really bring that change in our lives, KacyC, right?
Giving liberates the soul of the giver. We become happier. We become more content.
It's peaceful.
And of course, with the content, we can create harmony. And like these very discussion with Michael Lublin has been really very enlightening, to be very honest, where we are speaking about human affairs and world disrupted, the chaos in the world, the disruption in the world. There's so much negative going on in the world, and here we have an amazing person like Michael Lublin, who's been trying to help people out with the disruption, trying to bring in change. And with us, one favorite thing is change. How to bring on this change is starting from your own self. There are those needy out there, and you really, so making a difference in people's life with those small gestures. That's
100%.
really very important. So again, world disrupted, and you helping people out and making differences in their lives. Michael, Canada. I have one of favorite Justin Trudeau's quote. This is Canada.
And in Canada, better is always possible.
Is always possible. So we see better being possible here by better being made possible here by our very Michael Lublin. So Michael, what's the possibility here? With the multiculturalism and diverse individual, you being a Jew, I being a Muslim, we've got so many 222 diverse nationalities immigrating every year, only in Toronto.
In Canada.
And we're trying to make the
economy.
Yes, the economy better and everything else, especially our lifestyles. So
what is the intake on the multiculturalism? Where, I mean, like, how do you see yourself fit in with so many diverse, like so many diverseness?
Sure.
I mean, Canada being one.
Well, let me say this. Why does multiculturalism work in Canada? Our government, as far back as I believe the Brian Mulroney days, when the Department of Multiculturalism came into being, I think it works because, first of all, the foundation of our democracy is a free government, an elected government, and that government represents the people. It's not, they're not, our elected members are our representatives to the government, not the government's representatives to us. They work for us, they work for the taxpayer. And when the Department of Multiculturalism was created and came into being, it was the government saying, I'm going to invest back into our people. We recognize who our people are. No longer are we a nation of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant with a large Jewish population, a large Italian population, Greek and Portuguese. Today, probably, if I'm not mistaken, a quarter percentage of our population is of Asian descent and East Asian descent, and then all the different multicultural communities that form the rest of it. Unlike America, which has become a melting pot, which is great. It works as well. Canada says that, you know what, come to Canada, but be who you are. Be a Canadian, but be who you are. Be a Canadian Jew, be a Canadian Muslim, be a Canadian Hindu, a Canadian Christian, you know. But have respect for the law of the land. And in fact, the Bible, again, the Bible, the First Testament and the Torah teaches, and I'm sure the Quran teaches it also, you have to live in accordance with the laws of the land. And that goes beyond the laws. It goes to the ethics, the morals, as well as some of the traditions of the land. And I think that what's happened is because the government kind of paid for this and brought us all together, we actually had the opportunity to go to each different community's festivals, dinners, celebrations, weddings, bar mitzvahs, circumcisions, even unfortunately, funerals. And we were able to see all the wonderful things that bring us together, not divide us. And so I've become a big proponent of that. As you know, I step into so many different diverse communities. As I said earlier, just building bridges and not walls is the right answer in the right way. And this is what allows Canada right now, we're at the forefront of leadership in the world. And I think we're going to continue to be at the forefront of leadership. It's up to us, though. It's up to the individual and up to communities and up to the churches and the synagogues and the mosques to continue to bring people together. And I want to say that I have to say, do a shout out to a great friend of mine, KacyC, who started an organization called Unity in the City. There's a chapter in Mississauga, there's a chapter in Brampton, and I told Fozzie, I said in 2018, Fozzie, you have to expand that organization. You have to have a chapter, Unity in the City, in every city across Canada. And the whole foundation of that organization is to bring all of Canada's multicultural community together as one. And he's done such a great job, and that's why I say a shout out to him. I might be several people's mentor in the Pakistani community, but I also have my mentors as well. Fozzie's one of them. He's done a great job. And you two are promoting that.
Yeah.
That's been the basis of our relationship, is going out there doing the same things. And you know what? We can agree to disagree on many subject matters, but at the end of the day, if we shake hands, if we give each other a hug, and you know we're really big on hugs. You know, as my mother, may she rest in peace, always said, everybody needs a hug. Everybody has to have a hug. A hug goes a long way. So I think that embracing each other, knowing that there's so much more that unites as opposed to divides, is really the answer for us in Canada and the world.
And also looking at the history, like now we're in a stage where we have the freedom of choice, we have the freedom of speech, we have the freedom of independence, and really freedom to really say what we want to say and do what we want to do. It's all about the choices in life. So Michael, like what would make us a better businessman, a better partner, a better support towards whatever we do in life? Well, what is that becoming?
What makes us better? Look, as I said there's only one thing that perfects the state of the human condition, and that is self-perfection. We really have to work on ourselves, and when we work on ourselves, we become a living example to others.
It's setting examples.
Setting an example, but we have to live it. We can't become frauds. We can't preach one thing and then go and do something else. And again, in a world disrupted, we've seen some of the great political leaders fall to sexual impropriety, financial impropriety. We've seen some of the greatest religious leaders fall, and as you know, some of our great heroes in Hollywood fall just in the last year or two. So you know, you can't be hypocritical about it. You have to take it on earnestly, and you have to make the sacrifices. As you said, life's about choices, and we have the freedom to choose. Choose what? The Bible says in the Garden of Eden. Choose from the tree of life, not the tree of knowledge. Choose good from bad, righteousness from evil. And we're very fortunate because we live in a democracy and we can make those choices. Right now in Iran, as we speak here right now, the people are trying to make those choices, and the government is stifling them. The government's holding them back. The government's persecuting them. The government is killing them right now. And in many nations around the world right now, people don't have the freedom of choice. It's interesting because one of the greatest economists that ever lived, in fact, the father of modern day economics, Adam Smith, wrote in his famous book, The Wealth of Nations, people get the governments they deserve. People get the governments they deserve. Well, I have to tell you, there's a lot of monarchies and a lot of dictatorships, a lot of countries being run by strongmen, henchmen, dictators, crazy people that are persecuting their own people. Unfortunately, the people are going to have to rise up like they're doing in Iran this very day, and they're going to have to say enough is enough. We want a democracy. We want human rights. We want women's rights. We want gay rights. We want all the rights that are afforded to us by virtue of being a child of God, of the Lord. And I think that it's imperative. I mean, Donald Trump has spoken out against what's going on in Iran today. Nobody wants to see people disappear, their family members disappear because they've dissented against the current dictator. Democracy has to survive and democracy has to live. And we have to be proponents of it. We have to speak out here in Canada. We have to support the people of Iran. We have to support all the citizens of Pakistan that want to see terrorism rid from the Pakistani borders, gone from Afghanistan, gone from Iran. Tyranny and hatred has to leave this world, and it's up to us to lead and ask for that.
So basically, we all are on a mission towards the good life and the right life and making the right choices. So Kacy, speaking about the good life, what is your intake?
Well, you see, I'll just quote the same thing what here Michael said. pushing the right buttons. Pushing the right buttons brings that self-worth. It brings the very content, the satisfaction, the net worth, and the fulfillment and the purpose, as what Michael has been telling us. With this, there is a term called, it's all about the optics. Michael, optics, do you mean the optics, the glasses which I'm wearing? That's what you mean by optics?
Well,
optics, everybody.
Yes, it's very much about the optics. I mean, after all, how did I find you? How did we find each other? I was standing on stage looking really glamorous, and you were sitting in the audience of 500 people looking really glamorous. And there was just such an incredible attraction. Love at first sight, as they say.
Whoa.
But then,
But the first sight was what? That he was doing a speech, a presentation, and had a question. Because out of those 500 people, nobody would ask that question which I asked, and Michael did answer that question. That was awesome. We wanted to find that very strategy, that very tip to get successful.
Correct. That's what it was
optics.
about. But so let me tell you about optics.
Yeah.
Optics, it's really, really beautiful. It's optics are all about. I happen to have an incredible young man working for me by the name of Brody Nero, and Brody's a digital media expert and a social media expert, and he truly is. He gets it. People don't get it today. What is digital media? What is social media? It's all about the optics. It's about becoming relevant. You have to be relevant on a day-to-day basis, and you've got to stay in the face of everybody. And the way people perceive you is what the truth actually becomes. And again, what I don't like smoke and mirrors. I don't want to be perceived, and I don't like people that are perceived as being something that they're not. So you have to have the substance behind the perception. But fortunately, some people have the substance and the perception, and then others don't have the substance, they got the perception. That's unfortunate. You got to have both. And if you don't have both, have the optics, have the perception, because you could go miles with that.
True. And speaking about 2018, I'm really excited towards the new year. And like I mentioned in the beginning, that today is the first blank page of the 365 page book. So write a good one, which literally means that this is your chance to really make those choices, push those right buttons, and really bring a change in your life, and really risk what you really want to do in life. So KacyC, do you have a new year resolution?
I won't say resolution, but our very episode and talk today with Michael Lublin has been really enlightening. He's been so motivational, inspirational, and thought-provoking. As the new year starts, we are contemplating. We are thinking and how to push the right buttons, because I really believe that any act of kindness, no matter how small, it does makes a difference. It never goes wasted. And philanthropy, and philanthropist as Michael Lublin is, it is a virtue. That's what we all as humans believe, that helping others, it's itself a virtue. Why don't we think on this very aspect of how can we really make a difference in somebody's life?
And give.
And that's what we saw through Michael Lublin. Michael, before we end today's segment, is there a message you would give out there for people or our viewers to start the new year?
Absolutely,
Yes,
and it's a very short message.
Yes, please.
This year is 2018. There's a number 18 in the calendar year, and 18 has a numerical value to the Hebrew word chai. Chai is life. So we're really talking about life.
Okay.
This will be a year of great living for every single person, every community, every country, and for the entire world.
Awesome. So we end this segment with, again, Michael's own saying, which is, I am my brother's keeper. It means we have the responsibility to help each and every individual out there and make a difference. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New 2018. We loved having Michael Lublin here. Thank you for coming to our show, Michael. And enjoy New Year, everybody. See you all in the new year. Bye.